his command, concentrating their shots, all 6 hurled as one, but Athena sent the whole salvo wide of the mark. One of them hit the jamb of the great hall's doors, another the massive door itself, and the heavy bronze point of a third ashen javelin crashed against the wall. Seeing his men untouched by the suitors' flurry, steady Odysseus leapt to take help in the rafters, exactly. Similar to how there was help happening in basically all of the heroes' fights in the Iliad. Odysseus leapt to take command. Friends, now it is for us to hurl at them, I say, into this ruck of suitors. Topping all their crimes, they're mad to strip the armor off our bodies. Taking aim at the ranks, all 4 let fly as one, and the lances struck home. Odysseus killed Demoptolemus. Telemachus killed Euryades. The swineherd, Elatus, and the cowherd put Pisander down in blood. They bit the dust of the broad floor, all as one. Back to the great hall's far recess, the others shrank as the 4 rushed in and plucked up spears from corpses. And again, the suitors hurled their whetted shafts, but Athena sent the better part of the salvo wide. One of them hit the jamb of the great hall's doors, another the massive door itself, and the heavy bronze point of a third ashen javelin crashed against the wall. True, Amphimedon nicked Telemachus on the wrist. The glancing blade just barely broke his skin. Cassippus sent a long spear sailing over Eumaeus' buckler, grazing his shoulder blade. But the weapon skittered off and hit the ground. And again, those led by the brilliant battlemaster hurled their razor spears at the suitors' ranks. And now Odysseus, raider of cities, hit Eurydamus. Telemachus hit Amphimedon. Eumaeus, Polybus, and the cowherd stabbed Ctesippus straight in the man's chest and triumphed over his body. Love your mockery, do you? Son of the blowhard, Polytherses. No more shooting off your mouth, you idiot. Such big talk. Leave the last word to the gods. They're much stronger. Take this spear, this guest gift, for the cow's hoof you once gave King Odysseus begging in his house. So the master of longhorn cattle had his say, which honestly, I love we gave our cowherd this moment. Ooh, it's such a good, I know, burn. It's so good. I'm like, damn, pop off, son. Pop off. It was so good. I love that. So the master of the longhorn cattle had his say, as Odysseus, fighting at close quarters, ran Agelaus through with a long lance. Telemachus speared Leocritus so deep in the groin, the bronze came punching out his back, and the man crashed head first, slamming the ground full face. And now Athena, looming out in the rafters high above them, brandished her man-destroying shield of thunder, terrifying the suitors out of their minds, and down the hall they panicked, wild like herds stampeding, driven mad as the darting gadfly strikes in the late spring when the long days come round. The attackers struck like eagles, crook-clawed, hook-beaked, swooping down from a mountain ridge to harry smaller birds that skim across the flat land, cringing under the clouds, but the eagles plunge in fury, rip their lives out, hopeless, never a chance of flight or rescue, and people love the sport. So the attackers routed suitors headlong down the hall, wheeling into the slaughter, slashing left and right, and grisly screams broke from skulls cracked open, the whole floor awash with blood. Leocritus is the one that closed the quorum, leaving Telemachus alone back in book 2, and here he closes the named slaughter of the suitors' assembly. Exactly. It's so good. It's so good. I know, it's so good. But also the eagle reference, obviously, Zeus, eagles. Divine retribution, Zeus Tanzanius, he's here. Would the eagle reference be another way of saying this is done by the will of Zeus? Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely. That reference is being made. Grisly screams in my mind went to Vincent Price and the Grizzly Eagles never too much closing into serial doom. Eagle? Yes. No, yeah, no. Question. You have a question mark. Looks like that's supposed to be about line 19, 18, 17, like 316-ish. The attackers struck like eagles, crook-clawed, hook-beaked, swooping down from a mountain ridge. Is it another bird specifically, or is it just listed as like bird of prey? I will say, if this is, it's vultures? Really? Interesting. Put the Greek in there because I'll be curious. Yeah, he says eagles. I don't think he has a note on that translation. So I'll check. Mine is vultures too. No, he has no more notes in book 22. The last one is the reference to the Trojan horse. Agupios, vulture. Hold, please. The eagles are coming. Vultures are Ares' bird. Vulture or a similar bird of prey. Not the scavenger ones, the European vulture, which is... Yeah, right. That's why I wondered. So he goes with eagles because he's thinking similar bird of prey. I think he really wants to... I think Fagles here is driving home the idea of the divine retribution. You use an eagle. I think part of that is also, if you say vulture, most people are going to think of the scavenger. They're not going to think of that particular bird of prey. Yep. So the reason he uses eagle is because he's going for bird of prey. The eagle, bonus points linked with Zeus. This is all about the retribution for bad Xenia, making it much more clear kind of what Homer meant when he said vulture. Like, he's talking about a very specific vulture. Most people reading it are going to think the scavenger. So I see why he went with eagle and not vulture. And because even I would have been like, vultures? That's so different. But when you mentioned the European vulture, I'm like, oh, that's not the thing that comes to my mind first. So, okay, I see what we're doing here. Makes sense. Fitzgerald uses falcons. Yeah, we're going for a bird of prey, a striking bird of prey. Vulture, for so many people, is going to conjure up the wrong type of bird. I see why we did that. Yeah, we've already talked about the death of Polybus, Eurynomus, and Demoptolemus. We've already mentioned them all by name for their deaths. Aha, so that makes sense. Okay, makes more sense. Cultural appropriation. We're going for Romulan ships. War, yes, the birds of prey, a Romulan bird of prey. Yes, I see you. Oh. All right, so we see what you've done, Fagles. We see you. We see what you're doing. He keeps the spirit of what it meant. Okay. That's actually pretty clever translation work. How did I end up on the wrong page? Wait a minute. Nope, I was there. Ah, there we go. Leodes, now. He flung himself at Odysseus, clutched his knees, crying out to the king with a sudden winging prayer. I hug your knees, Odysseus, mercy, spare my life. Never, I swear, did I harass any woman in your house. Never a word, a gesture, nothing, no. I tried to restrain the suitors, whoever did such things. They wouldn't listen, keep their hands to themselves, so reckless, so they earned their shameful fate. But I was just their prophet. My hands are clean and I'm to die their death. Look at the thanks I get for years of service. Ah, yes, dost thou even hoist, my broseph, as my brother would say, which I never know why he said that, a killing look? And the wry soldier answered, only a priest. A prophet for this mob, you say? How hard you must have prayed in my own house that the heaty day of my return would never dawn. My dear wife would be yours, would bear your children. For that there's no escape from grueling death. You die. And snatching up in one powerful hand a sword left on the ground, Agelaus dropped it where he fell. Odysseus hacked the prophet square across the neck, and the praying head went tumbling in the dust. As he deserved. It's like, honey, you were violating Xenia as much as the rest of them. It's like, oh, you were just their prophet? You were just following orders? Modern day speak, we call that the Nuremberg defense, and no, it didn't work. No, because the bard was not... No, Agnes, the bard is not tied to the suitors. He says, I was their prophet. I was the suitors' prophet. He was there every day with the suitors. He was one of them. Yeah, the killing of Dolon. The bard showed up every now and then as he traveled. He was not linked to the suitors. He was just a traveling bard. And yes, Leodes even participated in the challenge. He was a suitor. Again, this is the twisted logic they're trying to say. I was just following orders. Well, I'm not as bad as those guys. Yes, you are. You were a suitor. You were that. That's why Odysseus says, how often you must have prayed that I would never come back. Different from the bard who's never a suitor. He's just a bard. Yeah, well, not even you're in my house like the rest of them. You were here like a suitor, like the rest of them. You took the challenge. Pumpkin. Well, it's not even just any prophet worth their salt. He was there as a suitor. He just also happened to be a prophet. Okay, but yeah, the reference to the killing of Dolon. Were the bards of a different class? Bards were not noblemen. So yes, but the thing is that the bard was not here as a suitor. He showed up, entertained, and he left. He did his thing. It's not just that he's a bard, he's a different class. He's not even a nobleman. He was never there as a suitors. Priests could get married, or am I mixing up Christianity? We don't really know a lot about the idea of, quote, priests of temples and all of that and stuff. So far as we know, yeah, they could get married. I mean, there were temples, but we honestly do not know enough, like I was saying, about the actual physical practice of Hellenic polytheism. Make the assumption, yes, but honestly, it's a question mark. It does seem so. Who lost his head with the others? True, the Schmatzis definitely got it worse. They went to the gallows. Well, we're gonna see that in a bit, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Now, one was left, still trying to escape Black Death. Phemius, Tarpus' son, the bard who always performed among the suitors. They forced the man to sing. There he stood, backing into the side door, still clutching his ringing lyre in his hands, his mind in turmoil, torn. What should he do? Steal from the hall and crouch at the altar stone of Zeus that guards the court, where time and again Odysseus and Laertes burned the long thighs of oxen? Or, Ananke, always present! It's true. Or throw himself on the master's mercy, clasp his knees. This was the better way, or so it struck him, yes, grasped the knees of Laertes, his royal son, and so, cradling his hollow lyre, he laid it on the ground between the mixing bowl and the silver-studded throne, then rushed up to Odysseus, yes, and clutched his knees, singing out to his king with a stirring, winged prayer. I think there's no track of how one followed Hellenic polytheism. What's your opinion on those who currently follow the religion? Do you think they're doing it right or not? There is no really... You can't really argue right or wrong when it's just like, I don't know, what are they basing it on? I don't know enough about how a lot of people who call themselves the neo, Hellenic polytheists, it was so localized and regionalized. Even just, so again, it's like, where exactly are you pulling from? Like, which calendar do you follow? Do you follow one of the ancient calendars? Which aspects of which gods do you choose to worship? Like, it's really hard to say. And I'm not some kind of authority who's going to say you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right. I'd be like, well, as long as you're not like, these gods do have various aspects to them, right? If you're making up an aspect, I'd go, what the fuck are you doing? But then an argument could be made that, I don't even want to get into the argument. It's too big a question, I really can't answer it. Then rushed up to Odysseus, yes, and clutched his knees, singing out to his king with a stirring winged prayer. I hug your knees, Odysseus, mercy, spare my life. What a grief it will be to you for all the years to come if you kill the singer now, who sings for gods and men. I taught myself the craft, but a god has planted deep in my spirit all the paths of song. Songs I'm fit to sing for you as for a god. Calm your bloodlust now, don't take my head. He'd bear me out, your own dear son Telemachus, never of my own will, never for any gain did I perform in your house, singing after the suitors at their feasts. They were too strong, too many. They forced me to come and sing. I had no choice. Now, they worship all the gods, view their myths as metaphorical. Ooh, don't say that, Sonny. In ancient times, it wasn't necessarily all metaphor. Don't this be the day the music died. Yeah. And interesting the way he says, when he talks about the singing, the singer now who sings for gods and men, what a grief will be for you for all the years to come. Because remember, we talked earlier about how Gregory Nagia talks about Kleos as equally these songs of Kleos. If you kill the singer, who sings your songs? But also, he's absolutely right. He was never there as a suitor. He was brought in to basically do his profession. He did not overstay his welcome. He left when he was done. He is not inviolate. Yeah, Homer finally got to hug them legs. Self-insert character dream come true. I know. So this man is actually like, he's innocent. He was never here as a suitor. Came when they called to sing songs, and he mostly was singing songs of glory, a lot of them of Odysseus at Troy. Left when he was done. He committed no sin. He just happens to be there right now because they're partying. A bard is here, right? Like, that's where it's just like, yeah, we don't kill this guy because is this the same bard that was mentioned before? Like back in book 1? I believe so, yes. There's probably one of the only bards who's local to the area. And he's good enough that he kept being invited back. Yeah, and exactly, with Apollo's, and it's Apollo's feastal day. You have a bard, a guy with a lyre. He's just, like, unfortunately there. Like, he's just unfortunately there. He is one of the only dudes in there where you're like, no, actually, this guy is just, it's kind of unfortunate he's here. Right? The inspired Prince Telemachus heard his pleas and quickly said to his father close behind him, stop. Don't cut him down. This one's innocent. So is the herald Madon, the one who's always tended me in the house when I was little. Spare him too. Unless he's dead by now, killed by Leodes. Leodes, that was his name. Oh, I knew there was an OE in there somewhere. Or Eumaeus here. Or ran into you rampaging down the halls. Yeah, so we're talking about these bards. These bards come, do their job, and leave. Right? They might get attached to households. I wonder if the wording for I was forced, I had no choice, similar to the wording for Odysseus being forced to lie with Calypso. Ooh, yeah, noted. We'll have to check, not sure. Ananke is there for sure, that I can tell you. Yeah, I was going to say, Ananke is definitely there. Don't know if it's there with that specific wording. How common was being a bard? Would most city-states have one? I mean, lots of people sure probably tried to be bards. I mean, and absolutely the idea of singing these tales of Kleos was absolutely a thing that happened. I mean, the whole point of these stories, the Odyssey and the Iliad, they were performed at festivals. People would basically compete for who did the better telling. So absolutely. singers, bards there, like probably tons of people. Good enough to be remembered and noted might be a wholly different question. Yeah, literally wrong place, wrong time. Like, he's there to do a job for a feastal day, basically. He's like, it's a feastal day, you gotta have a bard, and if you're a king, like Odysseus, maybe more than one, hey, maybe they're gonna duel it out by seeing who can tell the better version of the same story. Unfortunately, a slaughter broke out. As we say, unfortunately, we went to the fights and a hockey game broke out. The herald pricked up his anxious ears at that. Cautious soul, he cowered, trembling, under a chair, wrapped in an oxhide, freshly stripped, to dodge black death. He jumped in a flash from there, threw off the smelly hide, and scuttling up to Telemachus, clutched his knees. The herald begged for life in words that fluttered. Here I am, dear boy, spare me. Tell your father, flushed with victory, not to kill me with his sword, enraged as he is with these young lords who bled his palace white and show you no respect, the reckless fools. Breaking into a smile, the canny Odysseus reassured him. Courage. The prince has pulled you through. He's saved you now, so you can take it to heart and tell the next man too. Clearly, doing good puts doing bad to shame. We're just saying, doing good puts doing bad to shame. Shame. Now leave the palace. Go and sit outside, out in the courtyard, clear of the slaughter. You and the bard with all his many songs. Wait till I've done my household chores that call for my attention. He's gotta do some chores. We gotta, take out the trash. It's trash day, guys. The two men scurried out of the house at once and crouched at the altar stone of mighty Zeus, glancing left and right, fearing death would strike at any moment. Household chores. I know. The household chores. It's so good. Like, oh, sorry, I gotta take out the trash. My bad. Odious to clean up 3 years worth of garbage. Yup. I know, we're just slinging barbs left and right. It's so good. Odysseus scanned his house to see if any man still skulked alive, still hoped to avoid black death. But he found them, one and all, in blood and dust. Great. The chores joke was canon. Oh yeah, where do you think the joke came from? Great hauls of them, down and out like fish that fishermen drag from the churning gray surf in looped and coiling nets, and fling ashore on a sweeping hook of beach. Some noble catch heaped on the sand, twitching, lusting for fresh salt sea, but the sun god hammers down and burns their life out. So the suitors lay. Great morals from Odysseus. So the suitors lay in heaps, corpse covering corpse. At last, the seasoned fighter turned to his son, Telemachus. Go, call the old nurse here. I must tell her all that's on my mind. Telemachus ran to do his father's bidding, shook the women's doors, calling Euryclea. Come out now, up with you, good old woman, you who watch over all the household hands. Quick, my father wants you, needs to have a word. Crisp command that left the old nurse hushed. She spread the doors to the well-constructed hall. 108. Odie cut down one, kicked them around, 100 student nervers running down the hill. Running down the hall. Slipped out in haste, and the prince led her on. She found Odysseus in the thick of slaughtered corpses, splattered with bloody filth like a lion that's devoured some ox on the field and lopes home, covered with blood. His chest streaked, both jaws glistening, dripping red. A sight to strike terror. So Odysseus looked now, splattered with gore, his thighs, his fighting hands, and she, when she saw the corpses, all the pooling blood, was about to lift a cry of triumph. Here was a great exploit. Look, but the soldier held her back and checked her zeal with warnings winging home. Rejoice in your heart, old woman, peace. No cries of triumph now. It's unholy to glory over the bodies of the dead. Which is where he diverges from Achilles. Because that's what Achilles unfortunately does. Corpse and blood and gore everywhere, and on Odysseus. She goes, yay! Which, I mean, God, the level of hatred you have for these fuckers. I kind of don't blame her, but at the same time, yeah. And this is where he is different from Achilles. Because again, what Achilles did was, essentially, as he said, glory over the dead. Over the bodies of the dead, and desecrated the body, and yike. These men, the doom of the gods has brought low, and their own indecent acts. They'd no regard for any man on earth, good or bad, who chanced to come their way, and so, thanks to their reckless work, they met this shameful fate. Quick, report in full on the women in my halls, who are disloyal to me, who are guiltless. Surely, child, his fond old nurse replied. Now, here's the truth. 50 women you have inside your house. Women we've trained to do their duties well, to cart the wool and bear the yoke of service. Some dozen in all went tramping to their shame, thumbing their noses at me, at the queen herself. And Telemachus, just now come of age, his mother, would never let the boy take charge of the maids. But let me climb to her well-lit rooms upstairs and tell your wife the news. Some god has put the woman fast asleep. Don't wake her yet. The crafty man returned. You tell those women to hurry here at once. Just the ones who've shamed us all along. Now, I'm gonna note what we're gonna be talking about these maids even more in a second. Eurycleia, as she says, some dozen. So these are the notorious 12 disloyal maids. Odysseus already has a hint of this. Remember, he's experienced bad behavior at the hands of the maids and Melantho, and he's just like, okay, so I know there are, and I mean, also you've seen Melanthius, so we've handled almost the male side of servants who are disloyal, really encapsulated by Melanthius. But there's lots of women in the house. There are going to be other servants who are disloyal. He's seen that for his own. He's experienced. So who does he... And back then Odysseus told her he would recognize them himself with no help, right? And yet now he asks Eurycleia. I think they did talk about this before. Yeah, I think before he said, I'll recognize who's disloyal and who's not. But now, which feels like, that would be similar in a way to the way he was handling, like, the Polyphemus cave. But remember, we've learned. He recognizes there is wisdom in asking the person who's really gonna know. He's like, all right, you know everything. Who was it? And she goes, okay, I can tell you exactly the 12 who were the ones who were going out of their way to leave the palace, go sleep with the suitors, narc on Penelope, treated her with disrespect. Yeah, tramping to their shame. It is a wordplay. It's actually by Fagles. That's pretty fucking clever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the point. He's giving respect to Eurycleia. Respect and agency. As she is due, absolutely. Which again, he has the proper Greek here, all these things. He's like, all right, who are they? And also, we've had the instance where he probably could have gone nuts and killed those two bards. You know, Medon and the other one, whose name I'm forgetting. And Telemachus was like, Dad, maybe calm down. So, you know, he's recognizing that this cannot be a complete frenzied, let your rage take you away the way it happened in the Polyphemus cave. This time we're doing it right. So he's like, okay, you know all the women. You basically are in charge of most of these women. Who were the ones who did wrong? And she says, we have 50 women in this house. That's a lot. It's a lot of women. All working. And she says, yes, exactly. Eurycleia decides who lives and who dies. Odysseus is essentially, well, and even he's not going to be exactly the executioner, but he's functioning as the sword, basically. Or he would. But yeah, it's Eurycleia who says, I know the ins and outs of what's been going on. But it says a lot that of 50, 12 of around a dozen, she says, were disloyal. And they seem to be some of the younger ones. it's honestly a really cool moment. It says a lot about Odysseus. It says a lot about Euryclea. So you have this moment again where we give Euryclea all the agency and kind of most of the power in this moment, which she uses justly. She says, these are the 12 of the 50. Like, oh my God. Away the old nurse bustled through the house to give the women orders, rush them to the king. Odysseus called Telemachus over, both herdsmen too, with strict commands. Start clearing away the bodies. Make the women pitch in too. Chairs and tables. Scrub them down with sponges, rinse them clean. And once you've put the entire house in order, march the women out of the great hall, between the roundhouse and the courtyard's strong stockade, and hack them with your swords. Slash out all their lives. Blot out of their minds the joys of love they relished under the suitors' bodies rutting in the sky. So Odysseus gives very clear commands on what should be done. Why do you use swords? It's going to be, yeah, that's a very violent death, but it's going to be quick. We're going to talk about what Telemachus does in a second, because, again, I have quite a bit to say on that. We're just not there yet, so please nobody get ahead of yourself here. But note how he gives very clear orders. Die by the sword. Die a traitor. Die by the sword. It's a surgical strike over a carpet bombing. Yeah, you only get those who did wrong. Those are the ones we get. We're not out here to just, like, suspect everybody and be like, oh, how dare you, like, you must have. It'd be like, you're the one who knows. Who do we get rid of? Because they're not staying. Who were the ones who, disrespected, dishonored, who basically actively worked against my house? The women crowded in, huddling all together, wailing convulsively, streaming live warm tears. Boo-hoo. First, they carried out the bodies of the dead and propped them under the courtyard colonnade, standing them one against each other. Odysseus shouted commands himself, moving things along, and they kept bearing out the bodies. They were forced. Yeah, I'm sure they don't want to be moving corpses. They want to be running for their lives. Too bad. Same with the suitors. You made your bed. You lie in it. Because let's, again, note back to book... might have been 21. It might have been the one right before this. Or it was the one before then. He watched these women leave the palace, go out of their way to go and seek out the suitors to sleep with them. Big difference. Yeah, and who endangered Penelope and Telemachus by siding with the suitors. Someone like Melanthius, who gave away Penelope's trick that was keeping them at bay. It was not 21. No, it's 12. A dozen or so. Next, they scrubbed down the elegant chairs and tables, washed them with sopping sponges, rinsed them clean. Then Telemachus and the herdsmen scraped smooth the packed earth floor of the royal house with spades, as the women gathered up the filth and piled it outside. And then... 11. A dozen is 12. So there's still 11. Once the entire house was put in order, they marched the women out of the great hall, between the roundhouse and the courtyard's strong stockade, crammed them. Are the maids who are cleaning up the bodies the ones who betrayed Telemachus and Penelope? Yes, we very much specified that's who we're talking about. Crammed them into a dead end. No way out from there. And stern Telemachus gave the men their orders. No clean death for them, for the likes of them, by the gods. Not from me. They showered abuse on my head, my mother's too. You sluts, the suitors' whores. With that, taking a cable used on a dark, proud ship, he coiled it over the roundhouse, lashed it fast to a tall column, hoisting it up so high no toes could touch the ground. Then, as doves or thrushes beating their spreading wings against some snare rigged up in thickets, flying in for a cozy nest but a grisly bed receives them. So the women's heads were trapped in a line, nooses yanking their necks up one by one, so all might die a pitiful, ghastly death. They kicked up their heels for a little, not for long. So, he's just not there in the palace. Mentor doesn't like hang out in the palace all the time. He's essentially a lord of his own estate. He's just not there. Okay, so let's talk about this bit, because Odysseus did not say for them to go out this way. This way to go, so as I say, death by hanging, what might be called, you could say almost ligature strangulation, but death by hanging, especially if it's being done this way, such that the neck does not break, you are dying by strangulation, is a painful and prolonged process, which is in stark contrast to what Odysseus said. He said, hack them up, basically cut their heads off, stab them. You'll bleed out, you're gonna bleed out a lot quicker than you're gonna die dangling there, right? So what has been expected by Odysseus is not what has happened here. Basically, essentially, we're not doing this the proper way, which Telemachus said, I don't want to do it the proper way. And Telemachus right here is giving into his rage, his personal hurt, his personal rage. Now, and Mariana can tell me if maybe the Greek gives a bit of this. It's almost an echo to that kind of, as we would say, unbridled rage, the recklessness of Odysseus in the Polyphemus cave, where he let that rage get ahead of him, and he did some things he shouldn't have, like reveal his name, like get a little too caught up in the moment. That's what Telemachus is doing. He got his orders, but he's so caught up in his own personal rage, in his own kind of, his anger and feelings running away from him, that he says, I want to make you hurt. You hurt me. You hurt my mom. I'm gonna make you hurt. In the same way that Odysseus was like, oh, Polyphemus did this, well now, I'm gonna be a dumbass and open my mouth. Except, you would go, yeah, as you say, Papa's boy, except we now have Odysseus doing it the proper way. Now remember, we've learned. It's confusing vengeance with justice. A little bit. Yeah, literally blinded by emotion. Yeah, it's more that I mean, yes, but I don't want to fully commit to that. I think because this is more about not only that, it's showing that while he is in a way his father's son, in the same breath, we are marking a clear indication of the end of the Age of Heroes. Because Telemachus' generation, they really don't go off and do anything. That last generation of heroes is Odysseus. Like, that's that generation. The one, their children, they never really live up to their parents. Like, that's it. Are you going to give me more Achilles? See, that was the other one. I was going to say, Mariana, I debated between those two because I'm like, I can see both. But I wondered, just thinking strictly on the Odyssey, if we were trying to echo back to that sort of being blinded by your heightened emotion. Very similar in a way to Achilles with the body of Hector. The difference being that we're not desecrating the dead body, which, I mean, what Achilles does to Hector is horrific. It's sacrilegious. What he's doing here, yikes, buddy. Yikes. Come on now. Come on now. Don't run away with yourself here. So, but I see it also as the Age of Heroes being truly over. This next generation is not going to be up to snuff to the previous one. They're not. I mean, and again, an audience listening would know that. They know that. Because, okay, Orestes does a couple things, but, Telemachus doesn't really do anything. The children of these great heroes from Troy really don't do anything. I mean, and Troy basically wiped out so much of a generation of heroes. So there is a sadness kind of to that. Does that mean since Odysseus takes 20 years to get home, this is the last great act of ODYSSEY? I mean, arguably, yeah. Yeah, this is kind of the last great act of ODYSSEY. I mean, it really is. Achilles and Hector isn't overkill, it's sacrilege. What Achilles does to Achilles killing Hector is one thing. What he does to his body afterwards is what is super inappropriate. Yeah, another thing that it could be Heracles when he gets hit with his like fits of rage, almost madness that drive him to do things that are like animalistic, and then he snaps back out of it and he's just like, oh fuck, what have I done? Which we did sort of reference Heracles earlier when talking about Eurytus. No, Eurytus' son, Iphitus, I believe, who gave Odysseus the bow. But yeah, it's so Achilles and Hector, it's not just overkill. He commits sacrilege. He desecrates a dead body. He does something that the Greeks listening back in the day would be like, oh, we don't fuck with that. That's way too far. No. Absolutely not. And that's why Odysseus has that moment of saying, we do not glory over the bodies of the dead. That is not what we do. He knows far too better, and he is not blinded by his wrath, and he's not being stupid, basically, the way that he was back in the Polyphemus cave. Yeah, he let his emotions and passions overrule his reason, overrule the order that he got from his dad. His dad said, you use blades. Cut them up, make it quick, we're done. End this. Telemachus is giving in to the personal hurt, the personal offense. And not just to him, to his mother. As he says, you rained down abuses upon me, upon my mother. He's getting carried away. The parallels are paralleling. There's many of them. There's so many parallels. Many of the parallels are paralleling. And I'm sure we're even more interested here. Melanthius? They hauled him out through the doorway into the court, lopped his ears and nose with a ruthless knife, tore his genitals out for the dogs to eat raw, and in manic fury, hacked off hands and feet. And that's what's great, is it says, they. It's not exactly specified who. It does seem to be implying it's Philœtius, haha, I did remember his name, and Eumaeus, not Telemachus. Yeah, which is why Odysseus from now on is the epitome of the righteous king. Sure, he has to punish those who betrayed him, but he doesn't take joy out of it. Exactly, the thing that he learned. He learned that lesson in the Polyphemus cave. In addition to, yes, you can look at Achilles also as a parallel, but really I think it is also the Polyphemus caves. The ones who really suffered, who really were there, they show their hurt. Yeah. Would they have reacted the same if Achilles did that to the coward's body like Paris as opposed to Hector's body? Yes, they would have. Even if he did it to Paris, they would have reacted the same way. That is an absolute full stop no-go. You do not fuck with the bodies of the dead like that. Absolutely not. Yep, as Odysseus did with Polyphemus. Yep. The parallels are paralleling. Yeah, Troy and Polyphemus will haunt him to the end of his days. They will. This is a novel. This is a story about a novel, an epic poem that is very much about PTSD all over the place, and not just Odysseus. Everyone, all over the place. Everyone's got trauma. Is what they did with the Melanthius also sacrilegious? No, because he's not dead. He's alive. This is a criminal being punished. Now, it does seem again to be implied that it's Philœtius and Eumaeus who are doing this. So it's other servants taking it out on their own, going, how fucking dare you, we suffered your shit. Is there consequences for what Telemachus is doing right now? As in for what he did to the maids? No. There's no punishment for what he did to the maids. For what Philœtius and Eumaeus are doing to Melanthius? No. He's the criminal. Ultimately, he's a criminal. That's really what it is. Again, and it is a frenzy. Now we're seeing what happens to the people who suffered personally, right? These guys are going a bit too far in that they're not doing it cleanly, right? It should be cleaner. But like Mariana said, like these are people who suffered and are showing their hurt. and are getting a little carried away. Yeah, he's probably going to die of blood loss and infection later, but he's not dead yet. They're not killing him this way. They're marking him out essentially as a criminal, as a traitor. But they're not killing him because they technically don't have the right to kill him. So they're not killing him. They're leaving him alive. I'm just making it hurt. Yeah, exactly. What he does to the maids, we're acknowledging that the method is wrong. We're like, that's not what you were told to do. You're letting yourself get carried away. But killing them for basically being traitors, yeah, that's fine. It's the way he goes about it where it's making a point about the way that he goes about it. And it's much more of a very sad point about Telemachus. So the ancient Greeks blessed their houses? I don't quite understand what you mean by this question. Also don't really know what it has to do with... okay, we're not there yet, Nancy. If you're referring to what I think you're referring to. Then, once they washed their own hands and feet, they went inside again to join Odysseus. Their work was done with now, and the king turned to devoted Eurycleia, saying, "Bring sulfur, nurse, to scour out all this pollution. Bring me fire too, so I can fumigate the house. And call Penelope here with all her women. Tell all the maids to come back in at once." Well said, my boy, the old nurse replied. Right to the point, but wait, let me fetch you a shirt and cloak to wrap you. No more dawdling around the palace, nothing but rags to cover those broad shoulders. It's a scandal. She's like, put some goddamn clothes on, you freak. Fire first, the good soldier answered. Let me light a fire to purify this house. The devoted nurse snapped to his command, brought her master fire and brimstone. Odysseus purged his palace, halls, and court with cleansing fumes. A combination of are they blessing their house or are they clearing out the smell of death? I don't know why you'd want to use sulfur for that, because sulfur smells like rotten fucking eggs, but I'm not going to question things. What is that thing called again? The thing humans have that gods don't, that you wash off before... Huh? Sonny, I don't know what you're asking about. Miasma. What is this I swear to God, is this a Riordan thing? Riordan's gonna be... I don't even have a beef with Riordan. This sounds like something out of the Middle Ages. Not a Riordan thing. A contagious power that has an independent life of its own. Coming from what? Pollution and purification. Oh no, it's literally the smell of... That's what I thought. I'm like, this is not cleansing. This is just the smell of putrefaction. They're literally getting out the smell of death from the house. This is not... miasma is not what's happening here. There is some talk with regards to analysis of like the House of Atreus, but that's not what we're talking about here. It's literally get the smell of death out of this house. Because they just killed 100+ people. Get the smell of death out. And the smell of, bodies. I'm not a cop, but, The devoted nurse snapped to his command, brought her master fire and brimstone. Odysseus purged his palace halls and court with cleansing fumes. Then back through the royal house the old nurse went, to tell the women the news and bring them in at once. They came crowding out of their quarters, torch in hand, flung their arms around Odysseus, hugged him home at last, and kissed his head and shoulders, seized his hands, and he, overcome by a lovely longing, broke down and wept. Deep in his heart, he knew them, one and all. That is the end of book 22. We went through the slaughter. We took out the trash. Telemachus got a little wrapped up in his emotions just like his dad, but again, Odysseus now is the righteous king. He's already done that journey, right? Yeah. What's the ancient version of bleach? Sulfur, apparently, which, good God, why? Ugh. Yeah, vinegar, it ain't gonna do the same. You had to, they should've, I know, vinegar plus something else. I mean, I guess that wasn't strong enough. The day's chores are done. The trash is out. The palace is clear. Everybody assisted in cleaning up, including Odysseus and Telemachus and Eumaeus and everybody. They not have incense. Maybe not. At least incense is not going to do what they need it to do. I don't know. Look, I don't ask questions. I don't ask questions at this point. Yeah. Oh, if you've anyone who has ever smelt sulfur, you never forget that smell. It's horrific. It's awful. I mean, rotten eggs is what I say, but that does not do it justice. It's bleh. 3 questions now, one of which I'm scared is going to get buried in the chat. Treats for a queen. Treats for a queen. Clover, did we confirm, Bingo, that I can give her a schnacky? Because she is staring at me. So, hold on. Let me confirm Bingo, and then Sunny Days, you can ask your questions. Sulfur might be used for fumigating, so hey, that's going to be where it come from. Can somebody please confirm that it is time for me to give her a schnacky? Snacky. Okay, can someone... I'm not going to open Discord. I guess there was a bingo hit list. Okay, well, that's not proper bingo. Okay, unofficial bingo is not the same thing. Okay, but that's different. That's different. It's not book club bingo. I'm still gonna give her a snack. Give me a second. Sunny Days, you can ask your questions. Yeah, I'm gonna get you a snack. I'm getting you a snack. Okay, she has been given her snack. 1, is Athena the god of order? No. No, she is not. Put as Anacreonte's reference in the footnote of the Psalter. Really? That's hilarious. So no, Athena is not the god of order. Yes, she got her schnackies. She's very pleased. She got satisfying crunches. You mentioned something about a book about the Greek Bronze Age collapse. Ah! I can actually get it. I don't know what BSD is, so I can't help you there. Hold on, Peg. Hi. Wait, I'm right here. I'm coming. I don't know what BSD is. There's no point in me looking it up. It's not going to give me a good understanding. Yeah. 1177, the year civilization collapsed, by Eric H. Klein. It doesn't strictly just look at Greece. It looks essentially at the entirety of kind of the Mediterranean. So he'll go into things like Mesopotamia, Anatolia, Egypt, bit of North Africa. It's a really great book. I mean, the section of just like works cited and notes is huge enough that just the book itself from start to end like is less than 200 pages. All of this bit, this is all like notes and works cited. But it was really interesting to read. I was a big fan. I definitely recommend. Yeah, I have to. It's a great book. Deep in it, goes, Odysseus doesn't want to punch Eros, but he wants to cleanse his house with sulfur to clear out all the bad things from the slaughter. That's funny. Yeah, more. No, I think I put it in the list that I briefly sort of started in the like further reading kind of thing in the Discord. But yeah, no, great book. I'm really cool about Odysseus and does it. Okay. Ares is the god of like the blood of the violence, of the slaughter, of the frenzy. Athena is like the tactician. It's a really simplified way of saying it, and that doesn't quite do justice, but yeah. I read it 2 days ago. Yeah, it's a good book. It's really interesting. He's got a sequel essentially coming out for after 1177, like basically how the world rebuilt. It's not out yet, so, or at least the paperback's not out yet, so I'm waiting for it. I forgot my third question. Okay. Is it available on Audible? Yes, it is. It is. I actually first read the book by listening to it, and then I got a hard copy because I wanted to be able to like post-it flab stuff and such, and like write down notes, which is easier for me to do when the book's in front of me. But yes, it is available on Audible. The sequel, I don't know. Maybe. I can't remember if it just hasn't released yet or if it's just I'm waiting on the paperback. I pre-ordered the paperback, so. I'll be back in a second. Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna just go look for this. Makes this line from the TV show version of American Gods Match when he's fighting Shadow at Ares. So for the sheer fucking delight of it, just... Oh, yeah, no, Ares revels in violence. He just loves it. Until he gets a scratch and then he screams. You started Ithaca Saga animatics yet? No. I'm not. I'm not even done with all of the 600 strike ones. Since the vultures were Ares' bird, could they have been used to foreshadow Telemachus and the two servants' rage taking over? See, that doesn't quite work, though. Because that's not about Ares. That's not combat. Right? That's outside of it. That's something outside of it being Ares. I get where you're going, but it doesn't quite work because we're not talking about combat in that moment. Is it okay to bring the show up again? What show? I don't know what show. Are we talking about a show? And ordered, yeah. I don't... Scylla of one mind, or would they fight each other? Don't know, actually. Good question. You don't get that much info on Scylla. Like, once she's been transformed. Who knows? Is it okay? So bring up the show. Sunny, I don't know what show you're talking about, so I'm kind of left in the dark. BSD. You can ask, but I'm not going to be able to answer you, so. Like, I don't, there's no point in asking me the question if it's about BSD. The medieval monks. Fucking medieval monks. I mean, that's cool and all, but yeah, I haven't watched it, so. Hi, Mama. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I have a never-ending watch and read list. I've heard of Stray Dogs, but Stray Dogs, but it's not high on my priority list. Hello, Leodes. Peg's asleep. She's chilling right behind my butt. She's just out of sight. There she is. I mean, you can bring it up, just don't expect me to answer because I'm not familiar with it. But we are kind of trying to stick relatively to the topic. And the sequel order too. Nice. The booty connection, I know. What did they mess up about the portrait of Scylla? It's that she's done with dogs. You'll often see her start becoming more serpentine, and you lose the dog element, which is so crucial. But not as bad as the sirens. That's forever to mix up. Oh yeah, I've seen those TikToks. They're pretty funny. Look, when you look at the bestiaries or you look at like just old illuminated manuscripts, it's admittedly really hilarious. It's admittedly really funny. God, they were trying. The peg views and peg in a blanket. Yeah, I did accidentally dump the blanket on her, didn't I? By Neobatrachus. Dogs in the painting. The session with dragons needs serpents. The giant snails. Yep. Are there any more questions related to the Odyssey? The books 1 to 25? I mean, within reason. If it's stuff we've covered in previous book clubs, I'll probably just direct you there. Because then I would even say if anybody's got other questions related to Greek myth, we can do that. Sorry, will I slightly adjust that? I know, we have so many questions during the, even just during book 22. Oh, the Rhino, yeah. Greek myth books would you recommend reading? Like modern... I'm going to ask you to refine your questions. What do you mean specifically by Greek myth books? Like... Is catharsis a war death of enemy seen as ethical by the Greeks or conditionally? Is catharsis in war... Oh, you mean like ancient... So you mean like ancient sources is what you're asking. Alicia. Or Alicia. I think it's Alicia. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. So you're asking specifically what are ancient sources. If you want the real ancient sources. Okay. Iliad. Odyssey. You can read the Theogony by Hesiod, but I'm going to warn you it's really dry. It was not trying to entertain, but if you want to look at the cosmogony and all of that, then yeah, you read that, but it's very dry. It's not very entertaining. The Argonautica, the Bibliothecae, which is the library by Apollodorus, all of the tragedians, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides. Who are some of the others? Specifically Greek. You can read the Fabulae by Hyginus, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be the weirdest one you read. 100% going to be the weirdest one you read. He went really out there. But those are kind of, like, those are the big ones that I'd recommend. Speaking of the sirens, would you say medieval monks did more help or harm to classic literature? Harm! I had one, actually. Can you get back at the start where Odysseus talks about before shooting Antinous? The first 3 lines. Yes. Look, your crucial test is finished. Now, at last. But another target's left that no one's hit before. We'll see if I can hit it. Apollo, give me glory. Assuming those lines are what you meant, Mariana? Before it? Those are Odysseus' first lines. Those are the first lines Odysseus speaks in the whole book. Oh. Okay then. Now stripping back his rags, Odysseus, master of craft and battle, vaulted onto the great threshold, gripping his bow and quiver, bristling arrows, and poured his flashing shafts before him, loose at his feet, and thundered out to all the suitors. Oh. Well, you said where Odysseus talks, so that's what I thought you meant. That's my bad. Would we still have the records we have of ancient Greeks without medieval monks, muddled or otherwise? Yes, because other people maintained them. Like the Muslims and everything else. Okay, is it only me that finds it weird? It's like that in the Greek too, mind you. What part? Weird how? I'm curious. Yeah, no, oh, okay, well, fair, yeah, why pour the arrows at his feet? I have no idea. Admittedly, I do find that strange, but maybe it's just a moment of like, that's how many arrows I've got. Run. I don't know. Like, I legitimately don't know. It is kind of odd. Besides Homer's fascination, that might be your answer. No, so they have to look down. No, he does have a quiver. He does have a quiver. We note that he pulls the quiver and dumps the quiver out. I'm just saying. Oh, well, actually, you know why? Mariana, you know why? Because it notes when he has to shoot the bow, he has to basically use a stool. He's not standing. He's not standing when he shoots. He is actually low on the ground. So he vaults up and he's basically kneeling when he shoots because of the draw weight of the bow. That's why he dumps them on the ground, or at least on the table in front of him, because he has to be lowered to the ground to actually fire the bow. Actually, the way that you said that made me realize that's why. Because we know when he's got to string the bow and he's got to make the shot, he's got to be down. Because previously... Yes, then he gets up and he jumps up onto the table. It's probably easier to string it when he's lower. He might be kneeling down to shoot. Yeah, he vaults up onto like a table to get a higher vantage point. Because he'd be shooting through a crowd, right? He's putting himself on a higher vantage point, but it might be that he has to kind of get closer to the ground in order to use the bow. True, actually, we don't actually know where the quiver would sit either. I don't know enough about bronze. This might be one of those things where I don't know enough about Bronze Age weaponry. If it's a hip quiver, that is annoying as shit. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason. It could just be we don't know. There's no one behind it. This could honestly be we don't know enough about where the quiver would sit, like this particular quiver. Maybe it's more convenient for him to do it that way. I think this is a case of we don't know enough about the Bronze Age weaponry being involved here. Miasma in the House of Atreus. It's essentially like a curse. It's like the idea of the curse of the House of Atreus. It's a powerful negative force, which is what ultimately dooms that line to end. That's all it is with miasma in the House of Atreus. It gets referenced by scholarship there. I couldn't trace back far enough to find it in my quick look to see an ancient source specifically using the word miasma. I'd have to do way more research. That's a rabbit hole I don't have time to go down right now. Or one of very rare times they'd have them on the back based on archaeological evidence. Well, this is also, we know, basically a legendary bow. So, I don't know. Let's also know that this bow is apparently from Apollo. I don't know. Menelaus, really. Orestes still gets tainted. He has to go be cleansed and purified. Menelaus never does. Menelaus is literally the only, like, purely never does anything that needs him to be tainted that, like, gets him in trouble of the House of Atreus. It's also the same verb as pouring liquid, so it might be Odysseus serving his drink to it. Keeping the metaphor like, Actually, you know what? Mariana, I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something, Mariana, there. I think I think you're onto something. I think it's the poetry of it all. The poetry, the metaphor, the parallel. Honestly, Mariana, that sounds about right. That's actually, of all the explanations and ideas we've thrown out, that sounds the one where I go, you know what? That sounds about right. And given everything we've seen with Homer, that seems like something he would do and why he would do it. Right? It's like, hold on, we're cook. Let her cook, let her cook. Obviously, that makes sense. I see it. He does love his parallels and his mirroring. We never forget the poetry. The poetry of it all. Put that in there. Tired of losing that place. Oh, shoot. Yeah, there we go. Never forget the I mean, this is epic poetry. It's an epic poem. If he can use a pun, a metaphor, a parallel, he will. If he can use irony, he will. Symbolism. Stomaty and Homer wants Odysseus to bend instead. Did I not say it's about looking down? It's about looking down. The thighs. The thighs. It's a bend. And snap. Other people who do Greek myth content like yours. I don't know. That's not a bit of YouTube that I watch. I legitimately don't know. There's, I guess, Overly Sarcastic Productions, I think, is somebody who gets brought up a lot, to me at least. I legitimately don't know. I don't go to YouTube for my Greek myth content, so I don't know. Correct. Dude, every time Odie bends, I'm just like, yeah, I'm waiting to hear his spine crack, his knees crack, and he goes, fuck, I'm old. I'm like, dude. And snap. Yo, I think everybody's just had that, like, it's been that kind of week. We needed this slaughter. We needed it. Great cardio and stretching. I mean, honestly, this seems like a great aerobic workout. And honestly, if the draw weight on that bow is what it is, he's frankly getting, he's frankly getting some good, some workout here. He's working out them muscles, you know, getting some old kinks out. Oh yeah, no, this whole thing is almost more about audience catharsis than anything else. This is his moment of Aristeia. This is the moment of really, like, the righteous king returning home triumphant and taking out the trash. But this is for the audience. The audience is the one who's getting all the real catharsis. We're like, yes! Yes!